We had to put other people. We have a slew of SDS students showing up to take exams, and we can't leave them unmonitored. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Ruthina Malone, and I am the board president. And I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Thank you to those attending in person, especially our special guests, Lincoln students, and those staying engaged by watching all of our recording at a later date. The Republic is reminded that if they wish to speak during community comment, they need to fill out a speaker form located in the lobby and turn it in to Board Secretary Kim Coven to my left. Before we dive into the agenda, I would like to introduce those seated at the table with me. To my right, we have Superintendent Degner. Absent tonight due to illness is Director Pilcher Hyatt, Directors Eastham, Vice President Williams, and to my left, we have Directors Abraham, Clausen, Finch, and Board Secretary Kim Coven. With that, we will dive into our agenda, and first up is our education showcase, where we will hear from Lincoln Elementary teacher Chelsea Dahlman and 8 of her students on reducing the amount of plastic served in our school lunches. If you want to step forward to the podium.
My name is Lucy Manning. I am from Miss Dahlman's 4th grade class at Lincoln Elementary, and we are here to tell you about our social studies inquiry action plan. We started with asking questions we wanted answered, like, how do we use natural resources responsibly? By the end of the unit, and you as our audience, my classmates made brochures and are going to tell you about our possible ideas for solutions.
Hi, my name is Zaid Ahmed Abdul Talab, and as Lucy mentioned, there is too much plastic in school lunches. This is a problem because all of that plastic goes to a landfill and not much of it is actually recycled. One possible solution is we could have a nude food day. This is where we don't have any plastic in our lunch. This could be just once a month to start out, and we could add in more days later. This little change can make a huge impact.
Hi, my name is Anna Ingersoll, and my solution is that instead of using plastic bags to hold foods like veggies, we can use tongs. All the vegetables could be in a big bin, and there are just tongs in there. Students could be in charge of scooping their own veggies, or other kids and adults could scoop for them.
Hi, my name is Yulia Feng, and I'm requesting that the school district reduces the amount of plastic silverware and uses metal or biodegradable plastic silverware instead. Right now, we use plastic silverware that is single-use and gets thrown away. We currently use so much plastic silverware a day that changing this will have a big impact. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rowan Hassan, and my possible solution is to always have reusable trays. We notice that sometimes for several days or weeks, we have trays that are thrown away. Instead, we could always use reusable trays. We also learned that the washers sometimes break. If we fix those, if that's what is needed, then we are always able to wash and reuse the trays.
Hi, my name is Rhett Stahlberger, and I asked that we use big containers of all kinds of sauces that are self-serve instead of the little individual packets. We frequently get things like ketchup, mustard, French, and even tartar sauce, so those little packets add up. And we could even help or teach the kids how to use them so they don't make a mess.
Hi, my name is Austin Gilchrist, and a way to make the lunchroom better is composting. I propose we have a compost bin in our school. Composting creates healthier soil for plants. Also, it means less trash in the landfill. According to the iowacity.gov website, food waste that goes in landfills and not composted creates a greenhouse gas called methane. Methane is 20 times stronger than carbon dioxide and contributes a lot to global warming. Composting is very sustainable too. It uses less natural resources like energy, water, and gas. It also preserves land by having less trash in landfills and a need to expand and make the landfill bigger. Composting in school teaches kids to be more sustainable in the future. This is why I think we should compost in the lunchroom.
Hi, my name is Harper Litton, and I want to thank you for listening to my classmates and all of our reasons and solutions. We learned a lot about sustainability in our social studies unit and concluded it with a call to action. We appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to the board and our community. Thank you for your time, and I hope you feel inspired to make a change in our schools.
Much, students, for coming and offering those great suggestions. And I personally do feel inspired. I heard some really new and exciting things, suggestions from you all that I never thought about. So hopefully some of our district leaders, Dr. Ramey, was listening, making notes that hopefully our operations committee can talk further about and see if we can implement those. I'll give other board members an opportunity to make any quick comments.
That presentation was definitely the highlight of my week. You had great ideas, and it was so wonderful to hear directly from you. So thank you for coming to speak in front of the board.
I would say that that presentation was the highlight of my entire term on the board so far. Not that I haven't heard some other great presentation. Very much want to thank you, Chelsea, for having your class come and talk to us. And I really want to say to your class members that those were brilliant ideas and recommendations. And I hope we can follow up on them in a practical way. It may not appear so much that anything that you said tonight is going to lead to something because it takes time and a little bit, the process is a little murky and discombobulated sometimes. But I would assure you that I think board members will follow up on your ideas.
Yeah, I'll just, and maybe tomorrow's vocabulary word for you all is discombobulated. You can get to that from Director Eastham. But yeah, thank you. Great information, and your presentation was, you guys are rock stars. That was really amazing. And like Charlie said, you know, it's a slow-moving process, but honestly, the things that get the board to do action, that's where a lot of it starts. A lot of it starts right there, whether that's us getting certain holidays in our calendar, or doing the work you guys are doing. So it is effective, and I do, you know, I would hope that we get a follow-up, you know, from staff sometime on what we're doing. You know, some of this work is stuff that we've looked at in the past, but I think whenever we get students making that request in such an effective way, it certainly moves us to action. So thank you, and you guys should be commended for your work.
Thank you so much for your inspiring presentation. I told you all that I would bring my reusable water bottle tonight, and I'm going to challenge the rest of the board to do the same. President Malone already does, and I really hope that we can put some action to your ideas.
So thank you again, and we'll give you another round of applause for coming out, especially in this weather. On the agenda, we'll hear from our student representatives for their update. First up, we have City High, Mary Kate Pugh and Ari Collins. Got it right.
Hello, and thank you for, I don't know.
Let's see if we can get that up for you.
Sorry.
There we go.
Hello, and thank you for having me. My co-president, Mary Kate, sends her regards. She is unfortunately, as many other people are, sick today, so she couldn't make it. But we have a lot of exciting stuff going on at City High in the upcoming weeks and in past weeks. I want to start with talking about our food drive, or food can drive that we held last weekend at North Dodge and First Ave Hy-Vee, and we are going to be holding again this coming weekend. So far, through just last weekend, we've raised over $1,600 in cash donations, as well as about, I believe, 1,000 pounds of food donations, which in total, I believe, is about 7,000 pounds of food that's planning on going to the local crisis center, as well as our local pantry called Emma's Pantry. So we're really excited about that, and hopefully to increase those numbers after the next weekend. We have our upcoming band concert tomorrow at 7:30 p.m., which we invite you all to come. The band has been sounding really great, and they're super excited for their upcoming performance. Our winter show is this Saturday, where we'll be performing the show choir, our JV show choir, as well as jazz band. Shows at 3 and 7, which we've all been training very hard for, so we're really excited for that coming up. On Wednesday, our sophomore class is going to a career caravan where they will be learning about different career opportunities, job shadowing opportunities, and other exciting ways to build their plans for the future. I don't believe this is on purpose, but it turns out our new cafeteria is perfectly designed for robotics competitions. The upper and lower layout has been perfect for allowing the actual competition to go on below, while family and fans can watch from above. And so we're super happy to have said we've already been able to host 2 different competitions there, and it seems to have just worked out well for robotics. Last Saturday, our girls wrestling team won an 11-person event, which is super exciting. That's our first team win. We also had 3 individual winners, as well as 2 girls place second in their individual brackets. So we're super excited about that. As well as our men's wrestling team, who is currently ranked 5th in the whole state. We have a lot of returning varsity members, as well as people ranked nationally. So we're super excited about that. And we recently had our winter pep rally, which John Bacon wanted to make sure I mentioned. It has been going around the school that it was our best pep rally yet. We had multiple acts from students that kind of just wanted to come up. We had a kid go up and do a rap performance, as he's an aspiring rapper, as well as a non-school associated dance team. So we all had a lot of fun there. And yeah, that's my update. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Next up, we will hear from Liberty High, Lauren Volt, and Santiago Fajardo Casaba.
Hi, good afternoon, and it's Kasab. So there's a lot of things going on at Liberty as we approach winter break. So our winter showcase that featured our 3 jazz choirs and Liberty Jazz Ensemble happened on December 3rd. A lot of people said it was their best winter showcase yet. Next Tuesday, the Liberty Orchestra will be performing their winter concert at Liberty Auditorium. Liberty Band also had its first actual concert of the year on December 7th, where they played 3 selections, and it went very well as well. Our basketball team started off their season with a win against Pleasant Valley recently, and then we also have wrestling also starting their season. Liberty's student-led and acted productions will perform Bethel Park on December 16th and on the 17th. And some more sports news, the Liberty Dance Team received first place in POM at the Iowa State Dance Championships. It's their 4th state championship title. And they also received Division I rating in their jazz routine, and all Liberty soloists also received Division I ratings. The Liberty Robotics team performed well at the recent meet at Lutheran Trinity School in Cedar Rapids. They won 3 out of their 2 matches and was one of their best showings this robotics season. And then some more academic news. National Honor Society will be holding their eligible candidate meeting on Wednesday during Liberty time. So students are going to be able to come in and hear from NHS advisors and officers about what NHS is and what kinds of responsibilities they will be having. So we're excited to be able to host that in the auditorium. Honor Roll also came out, and we're proud to say that 55% of students had a GPA of 3.5 and above. So that's all I had for you guys today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You have a great night. Next up, we have West High Jaden Shin.
Hello. So first, I'd like to talk about our new tardy policy that West High implemented. I don't know how much of an influence the board had on that, but I personally have been a fan. In just the first 2 days, we reduced our tardies by 50%. I believe the actual number is like 600 to 300 per day. So it's a hit, but however, personally, I've had to wake up a little bit early to not get tardy the first period, so. It's having its intended effects. I feel like I bring this up every meeting, but our Best of West student tutor organization is really killing it again. We're doing a little mini case study within West High to see how, or gathering the statistics on how much of an impact we're having. Just personally, from what I've heard from students, they've told me they've gone from like D's and C's to B's and even A's. So I think it's having a great effect. Another reoccurring event is our Heroes of Troy, where we recognize a member of staff. And this week, Mr. Gessner, our paraeducator, won it. I haven't had much experience with him, but the one time I did talk with him, his smile never left his face during the whole conversation. Our iJag Club ran a student-run resource fair where we educated other students on the number of resources, whether it be mental health, scholarship, college aid, or job opportunities, which was a pretty big turnout in the cafeteria. In terms of fine arts, we have a band concert. I would invite you all to join, but it's happening right now. Last week, though, we had an orchestra concert, and I believe we have a choir concert this Thursday. Another way West High increases the opportunity for fine arts is through, for example, the Jazz Cafe, which we had last week, and the Cadenza Concert, which is a volunteer charity music organization, which had a concert just a couple weeks ago. In terms of competitions, at the dance state competition, we had 6 soloists receive the Division I award, and the crosstown rivalry of Iowa City West basketball versus Iowa City Liberty, our girls team was able to clinch the win at 42-40, and being the good sport we are, we gave them a second chance, but our boys team won as well. Sorry, Santi. Thank you.
Thank you. And typically we would hear from Tate High, but they weren't able to be with us this half of the year, but beginning in January, we do expect to see them in front of us. So thank you, student representatives, for coming out in this weather tonight, and we will see you in the new year. Next up, we will hear from ICEA President Brady Schultz. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, President Malone, Vice President Williams, Superintendent Degner, and directors. I'm Brady Schultz, the President of the Iowa City Education Association. It's great to be here with you tonight. I'd like to give just a special thanks to Superintendent Degner and his team, specifically Les Finger and Chase Ramey and all of the others in the central office for the approach that we are using to educate and engage our staff concerning our current budget challenges. The level of transparency and the respect to staff that Superintendent Degner's approach demonstrates really does illustrate a true commitment to our collaborative partnership. It's easy to say you have a partnership when times are easy. It's a lot harder to not only say it, but then to demonstrate it when we have challenging times. And I think Matt's engagement efforts thus far demonstrate just super strong leadership, and we're very appreciative of it. And we look forward to further engagement. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Brady. Next up, we will have a presentation from Run for the Schools.
Good evening. Great to see all of you. Thank you for the opportunity. We're here tonight to present the annual proceeds from the Run for the Schools. And I have some guests with me that I will introduce. But before I do that, I really just want to highlight the run this year. It was the most perfect day in October if you were able to participate, much unlike the previous year. And this year, our title sponsor, Midwest One, we had a special honor this year for Charlie Funk. The run is really Charlie Funk's first love, and he has suffered a really awful accident this fall, and we were able to honor him in this run this year. So that was a really special part of the race. I wanted to mention that a run like this is not an easy undertaking. This closes many of our city streets. We bring in loads of public safety. They time hundreds and thousands of runners. It is no small undertaking. And we are a foundation that we don't really have to do the race. We just financially benefit from the race. And when I tell my counterparts across the state, they're super jealous. And so this partnership that we have with the Iowa City Road Races is unique, and it's amazing what they do for our schools. And so I'd like to introduce with us tonight Matt Fetkether, I think, from Midwest One as the race director, and Bob Opliger to present the proceeds from this year's race.
Thanks, Susan. Yeah, I'm the secretary of the Run for the Schools Board. Our president is on leave because she's welcoming a new grandchild in Chicago. And as Susan said, we had a great day for a race. We had more than 100 volunteers help us put on the race, and Midwest One, and we had 25, besides Midwest One, we had 25 sponsors, 7 of which were new sponsors. And one of the other new events was a post-race party for the participants, and that went quite well. As Susan suggested, this is a fundraiser not only for the Run for the Schools, but for the School Foundation, and she did a very good job. We had a record fundraising with over $80,000 raised between Susan and Run for the Schools. And one of the other aspects of it that doesn't always appear on the horizon is the idea that we incentivize school participation so that each building has the opportunity to raise money for themselves based on encouraging participation. So all but one of the schools met the threshold to get a participation award of at least $200, which is split between the Media Center and the PE program. What am I leaving? Oh, and then we give out a traveling trophy. And you wouldn't believe it, but Alexander School won the traveling trophy and actually had more participants in the race than all the schools, including the secondary schools. So they take home the trophy. Shimmick Elementary and Mahan were close behind, but not a win this year. And with that, I should say that the individual schools got about $8,900 split between them. And now, before I turn it over to Matt with a big check, I wanted to make sure you know that the race next year will be on October 29th. And it's a little later this year, so wear your warm clothes. But I think the more important thing now is to turn it over to Matt. We raised just under $40,000 to give to the schools.
I actually didn't have anything to say, but I will just say that Midwest One has been the title sponsor for 20 years. I've worked many of the different races. It's actually the first race I ever ran. And it's one of those things that I would like to see more of your faces out, because believe it or not, I do stand and watch. And if you say hi to me, I will say hi back, but I probably won't say your name because I get up at about 3:30 that morning to do this race. It is a great event. If you get to see the kids tonight, you would see just as many kids with smiling faces finishing their half-mile races. It's just a great event. I encourage you to get your family members and everybody else out on October 29th to come and see it, because if it's a great day, meaning nice out, it is just one of the most fun days of my life, and it is one of the hardest days of my life. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. And that takes us to community comment, but seeing that we have none, I would entertain a motion for approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second?
All right, Kim, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open.
I'm a yay vote, Kim.
Thank you, Director Clausen.
My computer's not working. There we go.
All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up is consent agenda approval, but before we get to that, were there any questions related to the bills? I reviewed them this cycle, and I don't know who else, but.
I did.
Okay, and we don't have any questions, so are there any items that directors would like to pull from the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull item 5 and 10.
Number 5 and 10? Director Finch, 5 and 10?
5 and 10, yeah, thank you.
Yes,
Sorry.
okay. Any others? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion minus items 5 and 10.
Move to approve consent minus items 5 and 10.
Second.
Kim, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Okay. Item 5, the IntelliSea contract. Director Finch.
Okay, thank you, President Malone. I guess I just had a few more follow-up questions about the IntelliSea contract. I know I've had some conversations with Matt, and we learned a lot last week from the presentation. So basically what he indicated was that there would be a purchase for the hardware up front, and then like a service agreement every year. I think in this agreement, we have it like prorated to 3 years. And that all, just wanted to confirm that all comes out of Pebble, correct? None of that comes from the general fund.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And so I noticed the 3 schools that you chose to do the pilot on, and I was just kind of curious about your decision-making process and why you chose those 3 schools.
So we're looking at the infrastructure and how we would have to activate IntelliSea in the district, especially as we're looking at as a pilot. And so as our technology and our cameras are kind of weaved through the district, picking those 3 schools allowed from a technology perspective and an operations perspective for a more efficient and effective implementation, so that we could get an idea of whether or not this is something we want to take from pilot status to expand it to across the entire district. So it was really looking at something that provided an opportunity for us to minimize activation at that part for the pilot as a test period.
Okay. And then the total cost of this, because I don't see it on the, originally when I was looking through this, it said the total cost was like $20,000, but then when you go into the actual document, it's more like $60,000. But now that's I see that's changed now. So I just wanted to verify what the total cost of this sort of pilot project will be out of our Pebble Fund.
My understanding is that it's what we have listed on the board item, but now I am seeing what you're looking at. But our understanding is right now for the pilot, we're looking at the 23,148 out of the PEPL. If we need to come back as we look to implement fully, we can do that, Director Finch. And also, again, these dollars are all dedicated from PEPL and will continue to flow from that. There will not be any carryover regardless to the general fund.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I was on the wrong page actually. So the dollar amount is 23,000.
Yes.
Not the 63.
Correct.
Okay, all right. And then if the pilot goes.
Sorry, Adam's on vacation tonight, but it will be the 19 and the 23.
So more like 43 then?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then if the pilot goes well, would you envision us adopting this? Oh.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Sorry. That question caught me off guard. So I understand what you're looking at, but really if you look at the quote, and the quote is what's listed and what we're asking for the board approval is actually on page 7. And so you see that hardware and the installation actually for the pilot is only Jeff is what the full installation would be, but for the pilot is only $2,253. So on page 7, we see the projected subtotal is 22 and the total is 23. So it is the 23 that's listed in the board doc.
Okay, so so 23,000 for all three schools total?
Correct.
Oh, okay, got it, all right. And then if the pilot goes well, you would be envisioning extending this to all of our buildings?
Not without additional conversation, probably with ops and then back to the board. I think we'd want to take a look at how the pilot operated and then come back and share our findings, the positives, the negatives, and any additional next steps that we would consider back. I'd have to talk to Director Williams, but I would assume through an ops committee and then up to the board.
Okay.
I think some of it's going to link back to, Jane, also to that first question you asked about the school sites.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That some of our school sites are going to potentially incur some additional costs to make that work. And so we'd want to be transparent about, okay, it works at these campuses because the cameras are currently installed and been upgraded or sufficient to handle this software. But if it's going to be a substantial other cost at other campuses to do something similar, I think we'd want to be aware of what we're getting into there beforehand. So that's part of that explanation Chase was providing to you at the beginning, is we feel like those sites are ready to go. The technology interface and integration is going to be really easy. There's some campuses in our district that I don't think we'd feel like are ready to go on that right now. And so I think we'd want to have some additional conversation with you before we would take that step. But if it goes well, I think, yeah, we should pursue it.
All right, I was just confused because I know the first time that this came around, the number was like around 60,000, I think, and, okay. And then, looking at that, if we, do expand this to the rest of the district, I think the total price would probably, I'm guessing, would put us over the RFP threshold. So, I guess, my thought process on this is, I guess I would prefer that this went out to the competitive bid process. And I may be alone in thinking that, but that's my thought process on this. I guess I'm alone in thinking on that.
I guess my only question on that is, does anybody else do that? My assumption from the presentation is that this is sort of new technology that they've invented.
I think there are like a half dozen other companies in the U.S. that do this similar work. I guess what I'm, I just want to make sure that we're getting the right product for our district and at the best price. And so that's why I bring that up.
And I think for me, which I can totally understand and respect that, because if it goes over the threshold that requires that competitive bid, I believe we would have to do that once we move towards installing. But just for this trial period, it's under, so we don't have to go through that bid process.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's sort of we can see how this works. If this is something that works well or something we want to pursue, then we would do the competitive bid, see if there's other companies.
So do you think we would switch companies after
It
doing a
depends
trial
on
of
the
one?
competitive bid. I mean,
Okay.
that process, we can't, I don't know. Because we would have to go
Right.
through the bid process and we don't know who else is out there.
Mhm.
But it's good for us to see if this is a type of system that provides that additional sort of safety net for us. We can use this company to figure that out before we get to that process of looking for more.
Okay, if that's the plan,
Okay.
yeah, okay. Sounds good. I think that answers my questions. Yeah, thank you.
Are there any additional questions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the Intel C proposal.
Second?
Kim, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. I didn't get yours. Oh, I did. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up is item number 10, the agreement with Extreme Arena. Director Finch.
Thank you, President Malone. Yes, I was just hoping for some more information on this contract. Is there any upfront cost to the district for this?
No, there's no upfront cost. I would just introduce it, and then we can kind of answer some more specific questions too. But kind of the same vein of the Clash with Kinnick, we thought it was a neat opportunity for our students to participate at a different venue with a basketball game. And so this is it's a City High home game that would be hosted then at Extreme Arena. It's all four different levels, so the 2 JV, 2 varsity games, so 4 games that day. We would not have any additional costs. The Extreme Arena would keep the gate sales, and they would do their own concessions there. So that is basically our agreement with them. There's no other financial exchange stipulated in the agreement, but really just trying to look for another great opportunity for our students to do something different. And we've been happy with the Extreme Arena when we used them for graduation, and this would be another neat event for our kids to participate in.
Do we know what the ticket price will be?
Is it going to be our standard? Yeah, it's our 10 and 5.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Are there any other additional questions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the agreement with Extreme Arena to host City High and West High basketball on January 8th, 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Kim, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up, we have several public hearings. And the first one that I'll turn over to Vice President Williams is the Northwest Junior High Middle School.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the Northwest Junior High Middle School project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on November 29th, 2022. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on November 30th, 2022. The district will receive bids on this project at 2 p.m. January 10th, 2023 at the Facilities Management Conference Center, 1137 South Riverside Drive, Iowa City, Iowa. Notice to contractors was published as required in law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on November 30th, 2022. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, are there any questions from the public?
We will close that public hearing and move on to the next one, the Northwest Junior High Roof Replacement Project.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the 2023 Northwest Junior High Roof Replacement Project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on November 29th, 2022. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on November 30th, 2022. The district will receive bids on this project at 2 p.m. December 20th, 2022 at the Facilities Management Conference Center, 1137 South Riverside Drive, Iowa City, Iowa. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on November 30th, 2022. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, are there any questions from the public?
That public hearing is now closed. Next, we will move on to the Lemmy Elementary 2023 Roof Replacement Project.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the 2023 Lemmy Elementary Roof Replacement Project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on November 29th, 2022. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on November 30th, 2022. The district will receive bids on this project at 2:15 p.m. December 20th, 2022 at the Facilities Management Conference Center, 1137 South Riverside Drive, Iowa City, Iowa. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on November 30th, 2022. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, are there any questions from the public?
We will close that public hearing and open up the City High 2023 roof replacement project public hearing.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the 2023 city roof replacement project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on November 29th, 2022. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on November 30th, 2022. The district will receive bids on this project at 2:30 p.m. December 20th, 2022 at the Facilities Management Conference Center, 1137 South Riverside Drive, Iowa City, Iowa. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on November 30th, 2022. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, are there any questions from the public?
We will close that public hearing and open our last one, the North Central Junior High 10-plex relocation project.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the North Central Junior High 10-plex relocation project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on November 29th, 2022. Notice of public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on November 30th, 2022. The district will receive bids on this project at 1 p.m. on December 20th, 2022 at the Facilities Management Conference Center, 1137 South Riverside Drive, Iowa City, Iowa. Notice to contractors was published as required by law in multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on November 30th, 2022. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, are there any questions from the public?
Thank you, Vice President Williams. That concludes all of our public hearings. We will move on to policy review. This is the second reading of those. I don't know if there's anything to add from either Superintendent Degner or Chair Committee person, Director Finch.
We didn't have any, thank you, President Mullen. We didn't have any changes to the 300 or 400 series, and the policy primer was just the increase in the threshold of the competitive bid.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, Superintendent. No. You got it. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We will see those again under our action items. So with that, we will move right on to our special education update, our presentation for tonight. Is that Director ready?
Director Reedy is going to handle that for us, so Ashley's going to come on up here. As she pulls that up here, Director Abraham had kind of asked about a special ed update at the last meeting. I think it was the very last meeting. And so we had a little bit of space here tonight that we could do that. And Ashley's done a nice job of articulating here some of the special ed team's strategic plan goals and some of the work that's underway and then hopes for the future. So with that, we'll let Ashley take it away.
Thank you, Superintendent Degner. And thank you for everybody's time tonight. I appreciate the seeking of kind of an update. It's always nice to be able to speak to the work our team is doing because it's hard work and they're boots on the ground showing up every day for our kids. So I love the opportunity to highlight that work. As Superintendent Degner shared, I really wanted to just emphasize kind of a global picture for you tonight of what our work has been this fall, how it aligns to the work we're doing as a system in regards to HRS and the district strategic plan that came to this board, gosh, a couple of sessions ago now, because really there is a lot of connectedness there that I want to talk through. So again, tonight we're just going to talk a little bit about our strategic plan as it is specific to special ed. We're going to talk a little bit about our enrollment numbers as they currently are, and I always place a huge asterisk on this that you guys know those are moving numbers, and so these are based on the information we have right now, and then just talking a little bit about those leadership supports we have in place. And so again, our leadership team is composed of our lead support teachers, our special education SCBH team, our instructional design strategists through the TLC program, and our special ed behavior interventionists. And our systems why is really around that feeling of our students. So every student having that feeling of belonging, that they experience success in school, and that we recognize that every student deserves to be loved and cared for, and that they bring to us unique contributions that make them uniquely who they are. And so the way in which we are continuing to devote our time and energy and resources to making our system a destination district for all students is continuing to align our strategic plan to our district strategic plan, really looking at that continuous improvement process, and continuing to promote our DDSDP, our District Developed Service Delivery Plan. That does really emphasize that culture of equity and inclusion, and all of that is encompassed in our philosophies of HRS and our PLCs. And as I shared, I said I would speak a little bit to our enrollment numbers, and I wanted to show, go back a little bit to kind of show where we were. So I have the last 2 years' numbers up here in front of you, and then you'll notice that this year's numbers are not in a percentage because they're still fluid and we have not gotten confirmation from the state on both sides. So this is where we were at as of this week. And again, looking at those student numbers, so right now, roughly, we have about 1,456 students who are entitled, and you'll see that we, in order to do that inclusive work and to place a strong emphasis on ensuring all students access core, we require a lot of very skilled people promoting that access for our students. So we see in our overall infrastructure 164 special ed teachers. I do want to note that almost all of our support personnel fall under a teacher contract, so you'll see those numbers represented there as well. And then our special ed behavior interventionists, we have 10, 5 special ed social workers, and then again, this number is fluid, but approximately 451 special ed / preschool paraeducators. So our department is really anchoring to 4 strategic goals. Again, you'll see a strong correlation with our district plan because our work is embedded in the work we're doing as a system. So our 4 targeted goals are really around those proficiency rates in regards to ELA and math for entitled students, compliance in processes and procedures to maintain high quality IEPs, decrease suspensions of entitled students, and increase percentage of entitled students achieving that 4-year graduation. So how do we do that? Well, the first piece that you'll see reflected both in HRS and I think what makes our system unique compared to others is it really comes to how we're partnering at the table with our teams. So it does take a collective team to accomplish this. And the way we're doing that is student by student and team by team showing up, working through what do we need to do for that student, how do we maintain a highly individualized programming option to meet every single kid's needs, and what supports skill development resources our teams need to accomplish those plans. The DDSDP, as I said, is a key anchor point, and actually one of my members of my leadership team made this visual, and I love it. I got to give a shout out to Tanya Vitens, because this is her magic. But I'm a visual learner, so for me, this was such a powerful visual to anchor to, because it really emphasizes that alignment between our continuum of services down there at the bottom, where you see, we might be meeting every student's need through consulting, collaborating, co-teaching, direct service, but how that fits into that centering point of access to core, and that requires effective collaboration, a shared contribution and ownership of those services, and how we're going to support all students, and it all falls within that MTSS framework. So it really is just, I think, a powerful visual that shows how we really are all in for all kids, and the frameworks as a system we've built out to help us get there. So again, how we do that is by providing clarity to our teams, identifying outcomes we want to reach, and then having those high expectations along with high support, and continuing to empower the people who are here to serve the kids to do the good work they're meant to do. And I can't think of a better way to frame that than through the HRS mindset, because that really is what it's all about. And then, as I said, the strategic plan is giving us the outcomes and the targets we need, and we've defined how we'll monitor our effectiveness through ongoing assessment at the building and systems level. And then it's really about utilizing that data to continue to come back, respond, and refine our practice to make sure we're keeping centered on the outcomes of our students. And when we are successful, and as we continue to be successful, we will see student achievement improve. We'll continue to see our culture and climate for students and staff be enhanced, and all of our kids will feel like they belong. Thank you. What questions do you have?
Well, thank you, Ashley. That was very helpful. I'm probably a little curious about why our numbers went up that much, the number of entitled kids, but who knows. Can you talk a little bit about the para what you're doing at the IEP meetings to talk about para support and the needs for that? Somebody's forwarded me a document, but I'd like to hear what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be able to maybe hypothesize a little bit to your first question about enrollment. I think that, I don't have, I could certainly get more information to demonstrate if my hypothesis is correct. But if I were to put a hypothesis out there, I would probably speculate that with the change in enrollment criteria put forth by the state, I can tell you personally the amount of conversations I have with incoming students that are open enrolling into our district that are entitled, because I do believe that Iowa City is unique in our service delivery plan, and we really do place a strong emphasis on that promotion of inclusion and equity, and really ensuring our students have access to their peers in a meaningful way. And with the enrollment guidelines being changed, I think we've seen that being maybe unique to our entitled numbers, in the sense that we've definitely seen an increase. Anecdotally, that would be my notice. So I'm sure, I don't know if Superintendent Degner has other pieces he'd like to add, but.
No, I think Ashley's kind of hypothesis there, when we do the enrollment report, that'll be telling to us too about what does happen with those open enrollment numbers. The other thing that with open enrollment being a moving target now, it's going to be hard to really drill that down about when and how many and at what time. And I think that'll be part of our challenge from doing that usual October look to the rolling enrollment that's kind of happening all year now. But I know you had that second part of the question too, so I'll let Ashley get back to that one around the paras and the IEP process.
So as you may remember, our Department of Education, which I feel a strong need to emphasize that this was a Department of Education rollout of the Achieve system, not Iowa City. With all things, there's been some hiccups, but we're navigating it. So the Department of Education had rolled out the Achieve system this year, which is our new IEP learning management system. And with that, definitely some really great forward thinking and where we're going to get and how that'll provide access to our families and students with IEPs to be able to look at their students' information in real time and have maybe more rigorous conversation around services. So to your question, one of the components of that was this idea of a fading plan, which is, I think, the document you're referring to. So I've had the opportunity to work with the UEN directors, the Urban Educator Network directors, and Grantwood AEA to start to have more robust conversation around recognizing that the research supports a need for ongoing conversation around how might we promote student independence, because when our students leave our school system, they don't go into the world and have access to a shared adult like they might, or a one-on-one para like they might in our system. And so our responsibility as educators is to prepare our students for that post-secondary world where they'll be as successful as possible, which looks like, just like as parents, right? How do we get our kids and our students to be as independent as possible? And what we've been working through as a system is we had gathered some tools and resources other UENs were using, and we've started to develop some third points and resources that our teams might use when engaging in that regular conversation around support for our students, with the lens of how might we make sure we're putting in place those universal strategies and ensuring that we're thinking least restrictive in regards to access. So if a student has a need, as an example, for a one-on-one para, maybe right now that looks like they have that para all day. Well, what strategies or structures are in place that we can start to move that student towards more independence and start to fade that? And so it's in the early stages. We have a couple of building principals and teams that very graciously agreed to pilot. We have 4 different kind of tools we're trying right now that we've developed, and they are giving us some active feedback. And really our goal was that it's usable, meaningful, valuable, and is a good centering point for those conversations. And so as we gather that feedback, our goal is to kind of identify, take all that information and create one resource that will eventually be available to buildings as they would like to use it as another way to navigate those conversations, because they can be hard conversations, and it's kind of about how do you identify what you're trying to get to, and then what's the easiest and most meaningful way to collect data to have a good, robust conversation. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that does. I think that's really valuable. My understanding was that it's going to be part of all IEP meetings where there's para services on the IEP.
So Achieve, the site and the processes, there's more prompting in place around some of those services that it requires you to add a fading plan and be able to speak to how are you working towards those. You have to put in place success criteria and kind of benchmarks that you're working towards. And so recognizing that, what we really wanted to do was then create a tool that our teams could consider using to help support those conversations and navigate that piece of it.
Thank you.
Because if you don't get it, you can't click the button and you can't move on.
Correct.
Experience. Yeah.
I have a little familiarity there.
Were there any additional questions or comments?
Just one quick question, sorry. That's okay. Behavior interventionists, I see there's 10. Are those still primarily at the younger ages and not?
Actually, no, we have seen, I don't know if it's necessarily, I would say it's a little unique this year. So the way our special ed behavior interventionists are deployed is they're first and primary for special ed, because we also have them on the general education side. And so Laura and I are always looking, we always have to clarify that in our conversations when this question comes up. So we're on the special ed side when a student has intensive behavioral needs and they go through our referral process and they have support through our SEBH team. That also comes with special ed BI support, because that role is to take data and coach and train that paraeducator and teacher. However, so that's the primary resource and allocation. And right now, that is actually dispersed more at the secondary level than at elementary, just as the way the cases currently fell. But in addition to that, another way they can be utilized, and one of the ways we're using them is as a supplemental support right now in our secondary buildings when we're problem solving some unique student cases and trying to help with data collection.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right. No. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up is our discussion item, which is our equity update, and we're focusing on a nest space. Superintendent Degner, is that you or?
Yeah, thank you. I'll just give her a little setup time here too. So tonight we're going to focus on Nest and what we've referred to this year as our space, our spaces in our secondary schools, and talk about how that's supporting the SEBH needs of students. And so Laura Daly's going to highlight that. We also have Doug Listina here with us tonight, and I'm sure she'll talk to Doug a little bit, but there's some interesting statistics I'll get to show you around usage, and I think you'll be pleased to see some of the results we're seeing.
Good evening, everybody. I think that was a great opener. Don't really need to say much more other than Doug joining our team as the MTSS coordinator. He has had a lot of firsthand interaction with building-based staff throughout the course of the year. And so at any time, if he has some additional comments or information that he will interject, I've already told him, please feel free to do that as I am sharing information and going along. And I'm sure if there's a Q&A at the end, he'll be really helpful in helping that as well. So what we will do tonight is start with just a brief history and background of the Nest and its development and the goals around the Nest and the space and those supports. We'll talk about where we are currently with implementation status. We're just a few months, more than a few months into the school year. And then we do have some data that we'll walk through, and that might spark some additional questions and think about some future considerations. So just as Director Reedy mentioned, being happy, excited about presenting her special education information, I think this is a really great opportunity as well to look at one component of our overall social, emotional, behavioral health framework. So it's a great highlight, and any questions or input would be great for future consideration and thinking how to move along that path of continuous improvement. So as many of you may know, in the 1920 school year, City High applied for funding through the foundation to develop what they termed the NEST, which I don't know if everyone in this room or that's listening knows that stands for Navigating Emotions and Stress Through Training. So it has 2 T's. So that was a big development. They had identified that even prior to the pandemic at that time, schools were increasingly becoming, as we know, a space where students were reaching out for social emotional well-being, just various needs, mental health supports, and then with the added stress of the pandemic, we know that students were reporting even more and more feelings of stressors and looking for supports from the school system as well. So that was really the fruition of the development of the NEST, is along with all of the other supports that already were in place, by having a place with supportive adults that students could go and learn self-regulation strategies, get some emotional support, be referred on if there needed to be a higher level of type of support. That was really the establishment of the NEST. And as that gained traction, it even functioned throughout, kind of virtually throughout the pandemic. And then as we came back into the school setting, and City High actually had a room and a place. I know some of the board members that were active during that time had gone and even visited the NEST. And so it kind of gained attention and traction, and it was considered something that was an enhanced way to provide some emotional support based upon evidence-based practices. So this current school year, last spring, Superintendent Degner, I think with much support from various school board members in the community, we initiated then the implementation of the NEST in each of our secondary schools. So we are just half a year into each of the schools having that. And as our learning supports department took over the oversight of that and the former SAC roles, then we implemented a training plan and support and oversight, and also created this notion of space. So space is intended to be more conceptual, that anywhere in a school, students should be able to get student prevention, access, connection, and engagement. And also there is another room or place where the EIS work, the former SAC. So we have a NEST in each of the schools, and then also a space in each of the schools. So the goals of both the supports that are provided in there are to prioritize student well-being, and that's kind of just an overall way to say it, and to help them gain more emotional regulation tools and supports. You know, we want to build the agency and the capacity of students to be able to, share their voice and their struggles and challenges and strengths while learning how to some self-management skills or self-regulation skills in that setting. Really focusing on evidence-based practices. You'll hear us say a couple of times throughout tonight's short presentation, DBT, which stands for dialectical behavioral therapy. And so those are evidence-based skills and strategies to help build resilience skills and coping strategies. A big emphasis on mindfulness, some conflict resolution as well. And then the thing about the NEST and the space and this whole concept is that it isn't just for the staff that are in those rooms or kind of in those areas providing the support. It's really intended to be something that is permeated throughout the course of the school day and the school building, and to generalize that into other settings. And so there's been there's an emphasis on teamwork and collaboration to support the students. And ultimately, this is all about ensuring that students are in class in an engaging learning environment, practicing and having the opportunity for some self-soothing and mindfulness activities so that they're spending time in the classroom and not spending time outside of it. And there are a whole host of protocols, and that's part of the training and the everyday coaching that Doug does out in the buildings to ensure that kids are not just hanging out in the space for long periods of time. It's intended to just be a boost of some support, and then to again, if students need to be referred on immediately or later for more support, but then to get them back to class. So some aspects of the current implementation, City High started a standard data collection protocol that we've basically just replicated that captures student voice. So students are, first and foremost, they have the choice what they share when they are filling out that form as they enter the nest. And they also can choose what they want to answer. And it's all self-identification. There's no assumptions being made or looking any demographics up. It's all self-reported by the student. Those are some of the charts and graphs that we'll look at here in just a little bit. So the check-in and check-out procedure assists in collecting for students who provide the information, helps us identify who, when, how students are using the supports. Again, stressing that this is part of the overall continuum of social emotional behavioral health and framework. It's not the only thing that's happening in our schools to provide this type of support for students. And we've had a variety of professional learning topics just since August, as we have kind of outlined a plan for the start of the year and continuing on. We started early in August, I think it was August 11th, I don't know why that sticks in my head, with providing a session about discipline with dignity. And Laura Gray and her department were vital in putting on that first session because we wanted to really open it up with a focus on restorative practices and disciplining with dignity. And then since then, we have continued on with, as I mentioned, just some protocols, just kind of how to set the nest up in the space, how to do that data collection, how often to be reviewing it at the building level. We've continued with some overviews, not official training, but overviews for PBIS about Tier 1 and Tier 2. Again, the DBT concepts and logistics, which that will be a series of PDs. That's not something you just learn in one session. An overview of the multi-tiered system of supports, and then again, a lot of those protocols. A lot of what we're doing too, I know Doug is in touch a lot with Brad Kelly, who is a coordinator in Laura's department, about just different issues and things they're seeing within the schools and how they can capitalize and partner to support and provide training and support from these different angles. And I don't want to speak for Executive Director Gray, but I think she just wanted to give a little overview of some of the training from their perspective that they've provided as well.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Director Daly. So what we have is a little bit of a timing crunch. So as much as we want to train them in restorative circles, it's hard to pull them from the buildings whole day. So we have plans to do several half days starting in January. And then we'll pick up the restorative practice training, more about seeing beyond behavior, or how to discipline with dignity, and then start to implement the restorative circle training. So hopefully they'll finish up that training by the summer and be ready to go for next year. But it's just hard to pull all of the nest and space people at the same time for whole days. So that's the plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I think next we'll get into some of these charts and graphs, which is always kind of the fun part, to see what are some of the results, what can we learn from this. This first one, which I can't seem to quite get centered right on there, is the grade level of students accessing the nest. And so this is done by percentages. And you can see overall, so this is, keep in mind, junior high and our high schools as well as Tate. And so we've got kind of high percentage. We've got another chart that shows it as well, of 7th graders and freshmen, are kind of our two highest, which is interesting. I think we all can take some logical takeaways from that, being students into a new system and kind of moving up the trajectory of the grade levels. So I'll let you soak that in just a little bit. And then this is just the count. So the first one was percentage, and this is the count. And so we can see, again, a lot of our 7th graders are using, accessing the nest and the space. And keep in mind that, these charts are the nest and the space data together. So you can see that, just kind of some interesting takeaways there. And then, as we mentioned, there is a quick form that just asks on a scale of 1 to 5 how students are feeling when they arrive, and then how they're feeling when they have left. So you can see that the yellow, orange, and red is kind of getting toward I'm not feeling great when I'm coming into that space. And then how students felt when they're leaving. And, you want to see the shift more toward the greens on this chart. And then knowing that even with a short burst of support, and practicing a tool or modeling a tool or just having quiet time, because that's sometimes what we and students need. So, it's their choice what type of a tool or what kind of support that they get, or if they just want to talk to an adult. And sometimes they don't leave feeling the best. And so those are students that, over time, we can see the frequency of the visits. We can think about if those were kiddos that maybe needed like some immediate supports, we might kick that into place right away, see if there's an SFA, a school counselor available, even a principal or a trusted teacher. The message we want to send with this and what we're implementing is it isn't just the EIS or others that may be in the nest in the space at that time. We want this continuum of support to be integrated, throughout the school in these concepts. So then this is the part where students also are self-identifying and reporting. They may choose not to share this. But for the students that have, these are some of the takeaways. And this would be how they are self-identifying ethnically, racially, culturally, how they identify. And some of the initial conversations with the Nest in its early implementation from City High was that let's make sure as we roll this out across the district that we are making sure we capture this type of data and information as well, because we want it to be a place and a space that's culturally responsive and inclusive for all students. And then the last bit of information that we have is how students are self-identifying their gender identity. Again, looking at this in terms of having these supports and these spaces and places and be welcoming and opening with all identities. And so this is good information for us to have as well to be able to analyze and consider if there are any improvements or any feedback that we have from students about areas or ways that we can support it. The other kind of final points here are that, we've pointed out some of the strengths that, we were thankful, City High at the time was thankful, our district now is thankful that the foundation has provided the funding, because a lot of the setup just really has to do with materials and supplies and kind of the physical aspect of the room. There isn't a high level of cost to sustain it. However, we do need staff that continues to be trained in order to be there and be, there as the supportive adults for the students. Some needs are to continue to collect the data, see if there's any additional data that we need to collect, see if there's ways to integrate that into our existing convergence of data. It is important to note that the data, because it is student reported, it's on a Google form, we kind of consider it important and anecdotal data. So some possible needs are just to continue the training. I also wanted to give just a quick shout out to Corrine Frank in our department coordinator, as well as Brandy Moon, who works in the special ed department. A few years ago, they started the DBT in process in our district, as well as a partnership with the University of Iowa, so they get regular consultant support from them, and started that behavioral health studies class that's been part of the program of studies last year and this year, I believe. So then continuing to make database decisions, the convergence, and then just really focusing and emphasizing the evidence-based practices. If there are any questions, or I should say Coordinator Listina, if there's anything that you want to add, please feel free. But what did this do to spark your thinking or to ask us questions or to think about some avenues that we can move forward with for continuous improvement?
My only thing to add quickly is just that the data that was shared is all of so that's the checkout data, we would call it. So that is student provided. We do provide when a student comes, there is a student log with names and some information as well, and that's also where the EIS take notes. But all this information, and we know about 75%-ish of students are filling this out. So we know more students are actually using the Nest and the space. They also are not required to answer any questions, so we know looking that some are answering a couple of questions and not others. So it's, as she said, it's kind of anecdotal data, but gives us some information for feedback.
Great. I would open it up to directors for any questions.
This is a great report, and it's a very well needed, I'm sure, program for students in the school. As we contemplate moving to a middle school model, are there things that we need to pay attention to in terms of providing Nest-type support for sixth grade students that are going to a middle school now?
I think so. It's a great question, and actually earlier today at our teaching and learning director meeting, we had a short conversation about that as well. So just thinking of the developmental needs of our incoming seventh graders, obviously from this we can see that it has high usage, and so what would be some things that we need to consider for, at that point, incoming sixth graders? We haven't gotten quite that far ahead yet, but it's a good question that we've got on our radar. Our intent would be to continue some level of support like this, and it just may potentially have a few tweaks in it for sixth graders or not. It may be very similar to the way that is currently implemented in our junior highs.
Okay, good, thank you.
Great question.
I think it makes a lot of sense that our seventh graders and ninth graders are the ones that have the high needs, the transitions, something new. It's always very difficult. I think what's very telling is that they're actually going, though. And I think that speaks to the personnel that you have in those rooms and their skill at connecting with our students and building trust. Because if you didn't have that, we wouldn't see these numbers in the first half of the year the way that we're seeing them. And so I think that's really good news.
Yeah, I agree. Really needs to be student directed, and so that they feel as though they get what they need and they're looking for out of it. Yeah, thank you.
This is probably just my lack of understanding, but so I know there's the nest and there's a room, and then there's space and there's a room, but really they're kind of a combined thing. Is that right?
Yes, the concept is that the nest is as a student, I know that the nest is a place, even though we know a place isn't an intervention, but yet, you know what I'm saying. So then I'm opting to do this. I'm electing to go there. The space then is a room where students are typically referred by a staff member to go.
So kind of more like the old SAC.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. With maybe some systematic evidence-based training and strategies. That's what we've really focused on this year. And the reason we sort of glob them together is not to be confusing per se, but to emphasize that regardless of it's a proactive, preventative type of implementation of support and strategies, that can also be implemented in a reactionary or as a response to a potentially highly difficult situation.
Okay, that
So
makes
it's a lot
total
about
sense. Thank you.
restoring, repairing, building relationships, learning, strategies to use in whatever situation. It's a great question.
Add one quick thing that I think is kind of a nice addition to the former SACs but now space is any student that has been suspended, whether it's of course in school or out of school, their last day on suspension, they're disordered in the space,
right?
So that we can be having some restorative conversations, checking in back in with the student around their homework situation, that just be more welcoming.
That's a really important piece, following us or at the end of a suspension. Yeah, I know. I really like that part.
Yeah, this is really exciting. I loved seeing the data. Obviously, folks who know me know I'm, very excited about these things. And I'll tell you, a couple things you mentioned that stand out. One is the training piece. This is about skill building, and so we're helping students build that resilience. And two, it's both proactive and reactive. That we have places and staff who can respond when we need that, but then that we're thinking ahead to prevent. When these kinds of issues go untreated, it's the worst case scenario. And so this is the kind of a thing that hopefully you don't really see your impact because things aren't happening, like suicide attempts and self-harm and some of those very extreme situations that far too many of our kids involve in. Question, is this 1 year of data?
This is just this year so far.
This is a half year of data.
As of last Thursday, I believe.
So then my other question is are these replicated numbers? So could that be like
It could be.
a seventh grader
If
going
this is
10
like
times?
780, I don't know exactly what it is for seventh grade. It could be one student went there 10 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm just wondering, it just seems high, which shows that we have a lot of need. And if it was unreplicated, this is very somewhere around 15 to 20% of our kids, right? And as a district, and this is just, and that's all of our kids. That's not just secondary kids. So it seems like there's a high need. I guess what I'm going to be interested to see as that we continue this. I just think it's vital. And as we look at budget reductions, I think these are the areas we need to be highly sensitive to, that, this is the kind of stuff, frankly, it's not just improving attendance and academic performance, it's saving lives, at the end of the day. And so being mindful of that. And what happens when we start to see sixth graders come into middle school? Maybe seventh grade isn't such a weird transition year, right? And then maybe as we get better at all of the SEBH stuff we're doing, the need for this changes or morphs over time. But it's really exciting. And here's what I love, just as somebody who's in a building, this is not a hangout. This is a place to go and get some skills and get back to class, right? And not just escape from the trouble and turmoil, but to learn how to be resilient and get back to it. And so I think that would be interesting data to track. How does this improve attendance? I think that's something as a board that would be really helpful to understand. How is this increasing our kids in school for how many minutes? And I think that would probably be something that we wouldn't be too hard to track as far as attendance data goes, and comparing this to that, especially year over year, and seeing if we see improvement. But this is super exciting. I think I appreciate that we're, and I know in my conversation at City High when I visited years ago, Doug, you're very interested in saying we love this model and we'd love to replicate this model other places. And I remember, Doug, that data collection was a key piece of that. And I think that is bearing fruit here when we can make these presentations and tell these stories to show people this is why this is impactful. Maybe people who don't have an understanding of all the things that kids are going through these days. So thank you all for this work. This is the kind of stuff, honestly, the kids presenting with recycling was great. This is the kind of stuff that makes me excited to be a board member, to see that this is the kind of work we're doing in the district. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to echo, I'm so proud of the work that City High did pioneering the Nest, and then the support that the district has given expanding it to all of our secondary students. A data point that I'd like to see us collect that I think would help with explaining the process to the general public is maybe how long students stay in the nest.
15 minutes.
Yeah, and
Or
that's
less.
or less sometimes, because when I went to the nest, that's what struck me, is that explanation is sometimes they just need a brief pause. And if they don't get that brief pause in the nest, what they do is they go home, and then they're gone and that's the attendance piece, right? And then they're gone for the whole day. And so it's better just to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to breathe and reset, and then go back and finish the day. That's where we see these big, huge impacts in students staying in school. I also have to say what I think is really compelling data is how students feel when they come in and then when they leave, just seeing that heat map change from red and orange and then shift over. I think that's, you know, at the end of the day, I know it's self-reported data, but this is the data that matters, right? Like, how do students feel when they walk in the door and when they leave? And so it's really good to see that. And then I'll also note, Doug, I remember from a couple years ago when we went and met first that we wanted to see some growth again among some demographic groups from gender as well as race. And I think that, I think those are great results. I mean, I really think that we're seeing the nests spread through all of our students and having more and more people access it. So this was such a great report to receive. Thank you. Thank you for all the work you're doing.
Yeah, I'll just conclude with that and echo, thank you, Doug. I know a couple of years ago when I came to visit over at City, I was impressed, and so it's great to see that we received that support from the foundation, so thank you, to expand that into our other schools. So thanks so much for providing that report tonight.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Next up, we have several action items on the agenda. The first one is the request for supplemental aid for dropout prevention. I don't know if anyone wants to add comments to that before we dive into it.
No, the proposed motion is on the agenda. The only thing I'd probably say for the public record is that this is also the board approving our plans for dropout prevention. So you see a couple different attachments there this evening that are highlighted from our annual progress report. There's a new oversight requirement that you're also approving the plan along with just not the funding line item. So we report that to you annually in the annual progress report and tried to do a little bit more explanation that we would typically do in this agenda item. But unless there's questions, we would ask you to make that motion and approve our request for the supplemental aid.
If there's no questions, I would open it up to entertain a motion.
I move we approve the request for supplemental state aid for dropout prevention.
Second.
Okay, Kim, we're ready for a vote.
I do notice, Ruthine and board members, that the document in the packet actually has a longer suggested motion to, or resolution to it. Do we need to approve that? Because it has data in it.
It does have the data in it, and there's a key word in there about plans as approved by the district too. So you could make a motion with that exact language or referencing the motion that's attached there. But I appreciate that, Director Eastham.
But right now, I'm sorry, there's a motion and a second, and we opened it up. So do we not vote on that one, or?
Motion can rescind it.
Okay,
Yep.
JP, do you want to rescind that motion?
I'll rescind that motion.
Thank you.
Would you like
Yeah,
us
give
to
Kim
read?
1 second. She has to, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So go ahead, and
Okay.
whoever wants to try the motion again.
I move that we approve the request of the School Budget Review Committee for modified supplemental amount and supplemental aid for the 2023-2024 Dropout Prevention Program for expenditures necessary to implement the 2023-2024 at-risk and dropout, dropout prevention program plans as approved by the Iowa City Community School District School Board. The total budget proposal of $7,136,149 comprised of $5,352,112 for modified supplemental amount and supplemental aid, and $1,784,037 as a required match from district general funds.
Is there a second?
Second?
Are there any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, Kim, we're ready for a vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up, we have the 300 series for approval. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the 300 series policies administration.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, Kim, we're ready for a vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Next up is the 400 series policies for employees. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the 400 series policies for employees.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Kim, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
And finally, the policy primer 705.4, purchasing bidding. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the policy primer 705.1 purchasing bidding.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Kim, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you, Kim. And up next is our legislative update. Our first forum will be this Friday at 4 o'clock at the back of the boardroom. Superintendent Degner, I don't know if you had any.
Yeah, like President Malone had talked about, we're doing our first forum and invited all of our local legislators, as well as area superintendents and their school boards, if their superintendent so desired, here to the boardroom on Friday at 4. I am a little bit nervous about if we'll have a successful forum, just from an attendance standpoint. Right now I've heard from 4 of our 7 legislators that they will not be able to attend. That only leaves 3. One of those is confirmed, and I just have open questions out to the other 2 about if they'll be there. So if we don't have more than 1, I don't want to do that to Eleanor, who's also new, to put her on the spot in front of everybody in that sense. But we are comprised of 5 Democrats, 2 Republicans for our slate of legislators. They've all been invited. We hope that we'll get good participation. Once we approach January and do these monthly forums. We always know December's tricky with travel and holidays and things like that for people to get to. But I will keep you posted if we decide to cancel that. On Friday, you have your Standing Strong for Public Education legislative priorities on there. I've met with a couple of our local legislators here in the last week to week and a half, went through those priorities, went through the UEN priorities, and just talked about current issues that'll be coming up. And I think most of those things are already on your radar for what could occur during that legislative session. So the other thing I might mention is the School Board Association Day on the Hill. It's actually it's on Valentine's Day, February 14th. And so that could be something we talk about on Friday at 4 about what the board would like to see, or if you have any comments on that now. As far as participation in that lobbying event on February 14th. So those are really my big items, President Malone.
Sounds good. And all the other future dates for the forums are on the agenda, so we can lock them onto our calendar. I know it's 4 o'clock on a Friday. Some of us can make it, some of us can't, but hopefully a lot of us will be around the table on those dates. Moving on to Director Liaison Report, and our Vice President Williams got hers in.
So I'm the only one that gets to talk.
So I don't know if anyone else had anything they wanted to share on what they were able to do. I know several of us made it to the convention with Vice President Williams, even though we don't have that listed.
But were you there if it's not on the Director Liaison
Yes.
Report?
Somebody's a little feisty tonight because it's their birthday, but that's okay. Just open it up for other directors if there's anything you want to report out or share.
I just once again want to thank Principal Colbert for hosting us at Liberty High School. We brought in a delegation from Armenia who were visiting to discuss school policy and school reform, and it was a very good visit. So Director Williams was there as well.
Yeah,
And we all know that because it's right here.
Yeah, it's right there, but thank you for highlighting that for her. Okay, moving on is agenda setting. I'm sorry, it just threw me off for a second because I thought we had an education committee meeting next week.
Not on there?
No.
It's not on there.
Okay, so I just
No?
want to make
On the
sure, okay.
20th.
Yeah.
So we do have an education committee meeting on the 20th, and that's why there was a pause. I was expecting to see that. And then an ops meeting on January the 10th at 5 o'clock. It looks like FMP 2.0.
Yes, that's what we currently have scheduled for that. I know we kind of talked about coming back with budget
Okay.
at today's, but I don't know if Superintendent Degner wants to schedule a different meeting for that, or if he'd like us to bump FMP 2.0. We do have things about FMP 2.0 that we need to do concurrently with the budget, and so we would like to have a discussion at some point in January on FMP.
And maybe
Yes.
to allow more time to look at those strategies.
Yeah, because we won't have much opportunity for engagement with
Right.
next week being the week that approach break and then coming back on the 9th and doing that the 10th. So I don't think that's viable to do it on the 10th. So we'll probably target the second meeting in January, which also links to another point that a great majority of our team will be involved in HRS work on the 24th. And so we may be bringing to you at that meeting on the 10th a potential consideration to shift our second board meeting of the month to the 31st. So we would have our team here and present. And then that would also give us that additional week. I know Brady and I will still be here, so that's a week we've targeted for some engagement with staff that week as well. And so then by the 31st, we could be well prepared to revisit that conversation. And also, as we've talked earlier in the operations committee meeting, might have some other variables found out or might have some more information to help us as well as feedback. So please keep that on your radar. I'll keep you updated in our one-to-ones if that is something we're going to suggest on the 10th. But otherwise, yeah, I think we'll identify a different topic for the operations committee meeting on the 10th.
Okay. And then that leads us to our regular meeting on the 10th, in addition to possibly a discussion for changing the second meeting. There's our standing items and a couple of presentations. The equity update will be back on there. I don't know if there's anything additional directors wanted to see discussed or maybe added to the items of parking lot items that we have. So just opening that up. All right.
Yeah, an equity update, since we did one this evening, we won't do that till the second meeting, so we'll take that one off of there. I was trying to think if the team had anything else that we were aware of at this time. What? Yeah. We'll visit with you in agenda setting.
Okay.
Without doing the sidebar here, but there must be something I'm forgetting about. But that enrollment report, I think, is maybe what we're talking about there. I'm not sure if we'll be ready to deliver that on the 10th or if we'll want to bump that too. So when we do agenda setting next, we'll clean this up and look at it. But if you guys have anything else, we'd be happy to consider that too.
I know some of us got an email on the cell phone use policy, and I'll just say, I know we discussed it at the beginning of the year, and I just don't know, I know City High's policy because my husband talks to me about it, but I am curious to know where we just kind of landed at the secondary and the elementary schools. So I don't know if it's a better P&G topic because it's more of a policy. I don't know if we want to spend a full, to address it at a board meeting, but I'm just curious to get an overview of how it's going and if additional changes are needed, or if we think the schools think that we're in a good spot where we are and we should see how the year plays out.
So do you all want to bring it first to P&G, have that initial discussion, and then bring it to full board?
That'd be good.
Okay.
That'd be fine, yep.
All right.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, Jane, go ahead.
This is a different topic, so if you have more to say on that, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
The email that we received about that talked about cell phone policy was also a very complimentary email for one of the junior highs. So
Northwest.
that would be, I know we can't necessarily get that on the agenda, but I think we should know that. Yeah. Sorry, Jane.
I would just say on that kind of thing, my interest tonight was piqued by the tardy policy at West High, which I didn't want to tell them the board didn't really have anything to do with that, but it'd be nice to know what's working.
I think all the high schools are doing the same policy, so.
Yeah, I mean, without getting too far off track, but I'll give a little kudos to Lucas here. I mean, Lucas has done a neat job with our secondary principals meeting where they bring a problem of practice basically, and then there's a protocol that the team follows to help them refine their practice, kind of question what they've done previously, ideas for solutions, and West was kind of the first one to go through that, and they had identified tardies, so it was a neat update, and I think cell phones, tardies, those types of things are some of what we hope to bring you back maybe in a more strategic data set around HRS conversations too. And again, we won't be ready for the 10th. The 10th is going to be a tricky meeting.
Right.
But I think that's one thing we want to bring you around level 1 data. You know, what have buildings done? What are some of the plans they've tried to implement? Because we know that's based on culture and teacher teams. So that'll be something I think for a future agenda we'll be ready to report out and tell a couple building stories around that. But that has been a neat development, and so West High's done some good things that way. I was over at West here at the end of last week and got a chance to see a transition time and send kids for the tardy pass, and you know, teachers really committed to making that work. And so it's been a great element of success, but there's a lot of those success stories out there too. So kudos to West, kudos to Northwest about the phones. We have some good things going on and would love to highlight those.
So we'll be looking forward to those updates and the improvements that Lucas has been working on for secondary in a future meeting. So I added that to the parking lot items.
And just one more thing, if we're talking about P&G, if we, I don't know if we can visit the plastics concern that we heard tonight, possibly at some point.
Okay.
Okay.
And I also, do we need to do something exempt for bargaining between the 10th and the 18th?
Yes, we'd like an exempt session on the 10th
Okay,
too.
yes,
So we'll add that on
that's-
there. Yep. Probably be a short one.
Break is
Okay.
really condensing things.
So there
Yeah.
will probably be additional updates as we get closer to the 10th to make sure everything's locked on our
Yeah,
calendars.
we will, we'll talk about it, but I'd like not to do anything before 5 o'clock on the 10th. So if we did 5, maybe for whatever operations committee, 5:30 for exempt, or flip them the other way around, however that works. But we'll get it strategized in there.
Won't start until
Yep.
5.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope everybody have a great holiday